Let me jump in for just 1 minute. I'm just looking at a Fox News alert, which is on the screen right now, that I want to bring into this conversation. And this is coming from our reporters at the Pentagon. And they're saying that a government report says the U.S. cannot account for some several 100,000 weapons that were purchased under Defense Department contracts and intended for Iraqi security forces, and that there is concern that they may have fallen into the hands of insurgents. This report is coming from a just-released report by the Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction. Those weapons range from semi-automatic pistols and assault rifles to heavy machine guns and rocket-propelled grenade launchers. The U.S. plans to provide equipment for more than 325,000 trained Iraqi security force personnel by December. And so obviously this is going to be some fodder for reporting and for the campaigns this afternoon, Jim.
Well, that's right. And there are obviously there is a flow of weapons not only from within the country but from outside the country as well, which is one reason to worry about the borders. That also suggests to you that, the report I saw earlier said 1 in 25 either were missing or not functional because of lack of spare parts and that sort of thing. There are other views, too, on what we need to do going forward on this. I should point out that Senator John McCain on Friday told one audience that we should have 20,000 more U.S. troops in Iraq. So what happens in Iraq will be determined in part by what happens on the ground there, and in part what happens here next Tuesday. All
right, Jim, thank you very much for setting up our conversation here. We appreciate it. It's always good to have you with us. Jim Angle in Washington. All right, let's see what our A-list has to say about this today. Mike Baker is a former CIA covert officer and chief of operations for the Arkin Group. Lucy Noland is a Fox 5 anchor here in New York City. Cody Willard is a hedge fund manager and columnist for the Financial Times and TheStreet.com. And today's wild card, we're pleased to have with us Florida Congresswoman Ileana Ros-Lehtinen. And she's the wild card. She's ready to go, folks. She gets a free pass to interrupt anybody at any time. I know you want to take advantage of that. Yeah, you can interrupt me, absolutely. Let me start with a question for you, Congresswoman. When you hear this report about these missing weapons, and it all goes to the question of how we're doing in Iraq, how much control we have over the military there, what goes through your mind?
Well, it goes through my mind that thank goodness we did not have this minute-by-minute kind of analysis and media investigation when we were conducting World War II, because heaven knows what the U.S. support for that very essential fight against the Nazis would have been like. And yes, I love a free press and I love all these investigations. They're great. But let's not lose focus of what we're really fighting, which are these radical Islamic jihadist entities, and that we've got to be successful. It's no longer whether you're for the war or against the war. It's what are you going to do? We're there. Are we going to win it or are we going to lose it?
But do you think, just 1 second, I just want to ask, and then I want to ask you this too, Mike. John McCain saying maybe we need 20,000 more troops on the ground there. Do you think that more forces would prevent this kind of weapons loss and, you know, provide a little more stability in Iraq? Are you for more forces?
Well, there's no doubt that we made some very serious mistakes early on, miscalculations after the heavy fighting that went on in the early days. We should have sent more troops initially, but now do the American people have the stomach for sending more troops? No, I think that that's a misreading of the American public of where we stand right now, even though if the generals say we're going to need more troops, President Bush is going to send them, but I think that right now the kind of popular support for this mission, unfortunately, is weighting down. Like bin Laden said, the U.S. is militarily strong, but psychologically and spiritually weak.
Mike's trying. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I mean, the first question first. I know you're the wild card. I'm not sure if we're allowed to interrupt you.
Yes, you are.
Yes,
go for it.
Congresswoman. It makes me a little nervous. But point taken about the media and the presence of the media and the instantaneous feedback that this country gets about the conduct of the Iraqi war. But if the reporting is correct in terms of the distribution of these weapon systems, if only 3% of these weapon systems so far, 400,000 or so, ranging from handguns to shoulder-fired systems, if only 3% of those have actually been properly logged, meaning the serial numbers, the most basic thing you can do when you're establishing an armory, the serial numbers have been taken off of 3% of some 400,000 weapons. That's a logistical screw-up of astounding proportions. And I love the military, and I come out of the agency. I've got nothing but good things to say about that. But this is a monumental mistake.
Do you think it would be solved by having more troops on the ground?
The two are not necessarily linked, but I take your point, Congresswoman, and I think that is a good point, that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Democrats, Republicans, whoever's in charge after November 7th, doesn't matter. The problem's going to be that we don't have cooperation of the Iraqi military. We don't have the cooperation of the Iraqi government. They don't look at things the same way we do.
All right, these guys are chomping at the bit. Jump in. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to figure out where you're going to get the troops from. I mean, my goodness, we've got people doing second, third, fourth tours of duty, and their families aren't going to go for this. Plus, look what's going on in North Korea right now. Aren't we going to be massing some forces toward that area? So we are on two different planes here. It's going to be very difficult to find the resources, not to mention find people with the gut, the heart, and the fortitude to continue on down that road. Not to say that I'm for a deadline of pulling the troops out. You can't set up the deadline. You set up a deadline, the terrorists are going to be sitting back going, all right, we'll just watch that clock tick, and now we're going in.
Cody, what about the Democrats' plan and what they might have in mind?
Well, and I think it's important, though, that we don't politicize this too much. I mean, that's really the bottom line. We've got a serious problem in Iraq. If we do pull out, the sectarian war is escalating to the point where it is looking like a civil war, and whether it's a tough decision, whether the American people can stomach it or not, if we need more troops to go in, we've got to get it done. I mean, that's the bottom line. We can't say a change needs to be made at some point.
Served in Iraq as a Marine officer, my daughter-in-law as well, and I'm just amazed at the morale of the troops, even though we're here harping about the minutiae and little items. I mean, they're looking at the big picture, and they strongly believe in their mission. They just don't want to.
All right, we're going to have to leave it on that note.
That's terrific. The troops always step up, but at the end of the day, Jim Engel, I think, made the most important comment. Partition. It's the secret word nobody wants to talk about.
Well, look at the Kurds.
I mean,
how peaceful it is, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the country.
And pro-American.
All right. All right, thanks, everybody. We're going to be right back with much more. And this story, he's trying to buy Americans with his oil. But is Hugo Chavez now trying to buy us with his voting machines? We're going to take a look at why there are worries that Venezuelan president could have an impact on our own election day and some connections that he might have to a company that owns some of those machines. Plus, hemlines are getting shorter, necklines are dipping lower. No, it's not the new look for fall fashion. This is just Halloween, folks. Just a little Halloween fun. But what about when your kids want to buy some of these costumes? We're going to take a look at what may be too hot for Halloween and why disgraced Tyco exec Dennis Kozlowski is literally down in the dumps, folks. Prison just got a lot lonelier for him. We'll explain.